Hmm.
Well, welcome back to the World Autism Summit. And I have a very, very, very wonderful, special person, human being, Patty Beach. And I've known her I've known her all of her life, but she is an amazing individual. And Patty is the founder of LeadershipSmarts, a leadership development consulting practice in Boulder, Colorado. Patty's core belief is that every voice matters, and together we really can achieve anything. Patty's best-selling business book, The Art of Alignment, a practical guide for inclusive leadership, includes many memorable success formulas that leaders can apply to turn that core belief into reality. When leaders implement the simple principles and practices, they create a workplace that honors our neurodiversity so all can thrive. That was
All can thrive. Yes.
Oh, yes, everybody can thrive, and that's what they do. So, Patty, welcome to the World Autism Summit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I'm excited to be here. It's amazing what you all are doing to help people become more aware of all of the marvelous things that our folks with autism and neurodiverse community can do.
And I know you do this for all leaders everywhere, for all kinds of corporations and groups out there. So, what's inspired you to be part of this World Autism Summit?
Well, I mean, part of it has been my relationship with you. It's just been wonderful to see what you do. Right? But I work in leadership development, and I specialize in companies that have STEM professionals, people from science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Those industries tend to have quite a few people that are on spectrum and also that are neurodiverse. And so I have tried to develop tools and methodologies for these leaders because, some of them are better at the heady stuff than the hardy stuff, as I like to say, you know. And it's kind of true for a lot of leaders in business. It doesn't, you don't have to be, since all of us are neurodiverse, but you don't have to be on autism to have that become a problem. But my work is really focused on helping these individuals create environments where all can thrive, really understand the interpersonal relationships, the social and emotional component of leadership, and really spell it out so anybody can do it.
That's
That's
so
my
important.
specialty. Mhm.
Very, very important for people to lead in alignment. I know your book, The Art of Alignment, is all about aligning, and we're having people be empowered in their relationships at every level, which is very good, very powerful. Um, Tell me how, in your area of expertise, you want to make the biggest impact in the world.
Well, as you mentioned, my core belief is that every voice matters and together we really can achieve anything. And I am a big believer that it's leaders in organizations that are making things happen in the world. They're the ones developing the technology. They're the ones that are setting up the school systems. They're doing so many things that are moving us to a future better than the past. And I'd like to equip those leaders to do it in an inclusive way, because it's my belief that if we get more people involved in creating those solutions, then the solutions will be optimized. So oftentimes we maybe create a solution, but we haven't thought of the unintended consequence, how this is going to impact someone that wasn't a part of that solution. So when leaders operate inclusively, they have the best opportunity to solve, you know, um, really complex and important problems. And so I want to make that as practical and easy to do as possible in the most human way possible. That's the impact I want to have. I want to help shift organizations so that it's not like people go to work in the machine, that the organization is there to support them in bringing their ideas and their talents and their passion to work so they can make a difference in the world.
I know
I
you
want
have
that as
you
easy
have
as
a
possible.
you have a very gentle heart, and I know you come from a family of 6 girls, and that's probably why. But there's a lot I remember from your work that you deal with organizations and how the yin and the yang of organizations, the men and women working together, and how it's shifted and changed over the past several decades. Can you talk to that a little bit? I think people would really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons why I work in, STEM organizations primarily is because I started my career as a geologist and I worked in the energy industry. And so I was one woman working around 40 guys all the time out in the field, et cetera. And I often felt like, kind of a duck out of water. And sometimes I think of it this way, like, in a way, it's kind of like ducks and dogs. So you got the guys going to work and they're like dogs running around and they're, chasing after their balls and they're just wagging their tails, et cetera. And then women come into that workplace and we're like ducks. We've been out swimming in the water, really great in the water, but then we're trying to run around with the dogs, right? We run different. We don't do it that way, right? And so we're trying to fit into that dog world. Well, imagine it's the opposite. Imagine the dogs had to go now swim around and exhaust themselves in that pool like the ducks, right? You know what I mean? So in any time we want to work together, no matter what two different, groups you have, you want to be able to like allow both of those groups to succeed and have some empathy for this different perspective and really develop the opportunity for everyone to be able to work together, whether they're ducks or dogs. In this case, could be men and women, or it could be folks on the autism spectrum with folks that aren't on the autism spectrum, that kind of thing. So how do we create the right connection so we can mutually develop options for all of our success and for the success of whatever we're doing together? Like we're building a rocket, or we're, trying to figure out, like I work with the funeral industry, you think, well, how do we support families that are going through death and dying in the funeral industry? So no matter what industry you're in, there's always a problem to solve that you're pulling people together to make that solution. And you've always got ducks and dogs of some fashion, or yin and yang. It doesn't even matter, but who are the people you have and how do you plug them in so they can do the most good? That's always my question.
That's really, really good. Yeah. Resiliency, the ability to bounce back, and the ability to bend with the wind. I think it's really important.
Yeah. And how do we do it in a human way?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people don't realize this, but whenever we're in any work environment, there is about 30% of the people in that work environment have some form of disability that is not visible. Can we create the psychological safety that we can talk about our preferences, any kind of disability we may be facing that makes us difficult to do our jobs, so that we can work around it creatively and be in honest dialogue about it? So, for example, some people need to have their dog at work with them because that gives them the emotional support that they need, right? Can we create that environment so that's okay to talk about whether or not it's feasible for you to bring your dog to work? Like in some cases, it may not make sense. We may be working in manufacturing or something where it's dangerous to have a dog. In other cases, it may make total sense. But can we create that kind of environment that we can talk about those things so we can work with it proactively?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone can succeed.
That's beautiful. So tell me, what is your biggest why for what you do? Like what brought you to where you're doing what you're doing?
I'm not exactly sure. I honestly, you mentioned that I had these sisters when I was growing up. It's Patty and my 5 sisters.
Yes.
And I think that I grew up in a very feminine household, and it was wonderful in many ways, because we were sort of really in love with each other, kind of hanging out together and doing the thing that we do. And, as you can imagine, a household full of sisters, there was a little bit of getting together and telling secrets and sharing clothes and all of those kind of things, right? But sometimes it was kind of chaotic and it sort of drove me crazy. So I went off to work in the masculine world of oil and gas, which was the opposite, where, you had to keep up with nobody looked out for you. You just had to make sure you were, getting out there in front and making it happen. And I really wanted some synergy between those two environments. I wanted to feel like I could bring the best of the environment I had back with my sisters into the world of this, where the men were working, et cetera. And then also, to thrive in the man's world. So what I believe is that we're very blessed to have had the patriarchy to take our society to where it's gone to now. It's the patriarchy that has, won the wars and built the buildings and done all the marvelous things that they've done. But I only think it can go so far. Now, what I believe we need to do is not shift into a matriarchy. We need to shift into what I call the versarchy. The versarchy is the versatile world where people are leaning into their masculine strengths and their feminine strengths in order to succeed, so that ducks and dogs can, thrive together, basically, is kind of the idea. And so that's really my why. I want to see that world out there for, my grandkids and well beyond where I'm here, because I think that there's only so far the patriarchy can take us. I think it's actually gotten to the point where it's almost destructive in some cases, where you end up with a toxic workplace or a place where, we're just getting burnout, or we're so stuck in our technology that we forgot our human connection. How do we bring technology in service of humanity and really maintain that kind of a workplace, those kind of solutions that serve everyone? And I think it's the versarchy that's going to do that, not the patriarchy. So I want to be a part of making that versarchy a thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Versarchy. I like
The
it.
versarchy. Yeah. The word versa means to turn in Latin. So versatile leaders can turn between their masculine energy and their feminine energy to succeed.
Yeah, we hear a lot about pivoting, so that's a really timely saying. That's really, really good. How can we set up systems of success in partner relationships globally?
Systems of success for like what? I'm
Well,
not sure.
like one thing that we are is we're an unbiased platform for people to have their voice out there for autism and neurodiversity. So everybody's heard. Like you talk about, we'll get into later, of course, is SHUVA, being seen, heard, understand, valued, and appreciated, which is kind of part of my DNA now. Thank you very much. But I mean,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. So my book is called The Art of Alignment. And I like to, I believe that when we get aligned around something we want to achieve, then we're all rowing together to make it happen. And so what I love that, for many years, people have been working on autism. Like, for example, you've been doing it in Autism Today, in a smaller scale in the past, where you would run a conference or something. For example, you put the conference, you bring people together so they can understand the problem or develop curriculum for people. There's so many things you've done in your publications and your books and all of these efforts. But what I love about what you're doing is that you're thinking more globally. How do we build a network of people that understand this, a larger network, so we can find places to connect? Now, what I would recommend is that when you get two parties that find some form of connection, that they pick up my book on alignment. And this is not just, like to be the infomercial about it, but really has some practical ideas for how they can get together and come to an agreement of what are we actually committed to doing around this partnering that will make a difference. Because so often you get people in a room, they go to a conference, they're all excited, and then they walk away and nothing happens, right? So what we want is for people to say, oh, your information and my information could do that out in the world. Well, let's use alignment to see if we can come to agreement with how that would work. And I think that's what we really need. Is we need an efficient method. And that's what I tried to codify in my book. We have what's called a 3-4-5 alignment framework. It has 3 principles, 4 steps, and 5 C's. And logical people love it. 3-4-5, that's easy to remember. But this 3-4-5 framework can be used between 2 people to come to agreement about what we're going to do. For example, you and I come to agreement on how we're going to be on this summit together. We could use it for our organization partnering to try to do something wonderful. Maybe we create alignment training through your network. Or we could go, that's trans-organizational work, basically, we would say, across organizations. And multiple organizations, too, can come together and create their own network or their own council, et cetera, where they'll have representatives of different people. And if they use some of the principles and practices in my book, you'd find it go a lot faster to make it happen. So just as, I don't know, as an example, today I was working with the university, and they're very interested in bringing in first generation kids into an early technology degree, like a mechanical degree for techs. And they're bringing people in from K through 12, universities, people who would hire them, they're working across that entire system, because these first generation kids who their parents never went to college don't know what to do. How can we start early and work with them and build that partnership early, so we go all the way across, so we get them, so they get their degrees, they get their jobs, and then they're mentoring and coaching kids into that system. That's the kind of thing that I see you're doing with your work in autism for folks with neurodiversity. You're building that ecosystem.
That's great. That's really, really well spelled out. I like that. That's good. I think a lot of people are going to have a great takeaway from what you said. I think that's going to help a lot. Okay. So your specialty is inclusive leadership coaching. How would you advise leaders to include those on the autism spectrum?
Yeah. First of all, I would say that you have a great opportunity to include those on the autism spectrum. First thing I would want to do is help educate them that folks on the autism spectrum make amazing employees, have brilliant gifts and talents, and it doesn't come in the package you would normally expect from like your traditional ideal employee, So I try to help them understand that first thing you got to do is give this person a shot. And the other thing I would say is that I believe that it's important to use processes in any organization to help, whether you're on the autism spectrum or not, help people know how to flow in and how to play and how to be a part of this solution. Folks on the autism spectrum like systems and processes. They like to be things outlined and boundaries, et cetera. So they need those tools and methods in order to flow in and become a part and know when to play and how to play. But they're not the only ones. Everybody needs it. You need those anyway. Might as well have it anyway. And a person, on the autistic spectrum can help you develop those systems and processes. They're actually really good at that. So I think that would be some of my, coaching of them, is really thinking through, you're having trouble getting in employees, open your mind up, can partner with some of these organizations that support these folks and see if you can develop some support to help flow them into your work so that they can do what you do and broaden and expand what you do so it's even better than what you're doing now.
Yeah, focusing on those gifts, the talents that they have. A lot of times you'll find really good leaders in the area, in the autism and neurodiversity space.
Yeah, I have actually coached some amazing CEOs that are on the spectrum. And my mentor that I work with, who was my boss, and he was the best boss ever, he says that he's on the autistic spectrum. And he is doing amazing things in the world. Now that he's retired, he's become a philanthropist. He sold his business for a lot of money, and he was just a make it happen person, and sometimes you don't visualize people on the autism spectrum that way, but many senior leaders are on the spectrum. I'm absolutely certain of it because I've met and coached a few of them.
Yeah, they make it happen.
They do. They can make it happen. Don't underestimate. Never underestimate.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, Patty, I've read your book, The Art of Alignment, and feel the practices in it could really support our neurodiversity. Could you share a bit more about alignment? I know you shared some, but there's a wealth of information in there.
Yeah. So anytime that you want to, lead people, the key skill is being able to get people on the same page, moving together.
Yeah.
On the same page, moving forward together, basically. And that's what alignment is. Historically speaking, we've created alignment through traditional hierarchical structures or patriarchal structures where you have, carrots and sticks. In other words, I'm going to reward you if you do this. I'm going to take something away if you don't. Or we're going to have all of these charts and be able to track what you're doing. And if you're green on the track, great. If you're red on the track, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And in reality, it shouldn't be that way. When you create alignment, people are motivated to do things of their own free will. So that's why I believe that leadership is an inclusive, in order to be a good leader, you have to include people. And co-creativity leads to co-ownership. When I co-own the outcome that we're doing together, I'm motivated, excited to do it. You don't need a carrot and a stick. Mm-hmm. So when you see really great leaders, they put a vision in place or a process in place, and they bring other people to help them create that vision and process. And then they're as fired up about it as the leader is, so that that leader can leave and it just continues to happen. So in my book, I've outlined some best practices that make that easier to do. Normally, that's not an easy thing to master. Like if I'd say, can you get any group of any size in a room to agree and commit to something? Most people would say, no, I can't do that. Well, you follow the processes in my book and you can do it. Anybody can do it. That's what I feel is my contribution is codifying and making a simple roadmap that anybody can do it. And it's so simple that people are saying, hey, maybe we should, teach this to, kids in elementary school. Like it's that simple. It doesn't, it's not rocket science, but rocket scientists are using it because it's very effective. So I just last month was working with rocket scientists to use this, and they love it because it's so simple, so memorable, and easy to do. Anyway, I've got these 3 principles, 4 steps, and 5 C's. I won't be able to go into all of them, but they're all memorable success formulas that almost anybody can do. So as an example, one of the principles of alignment, there's 3 principles of alignment that has been very catchy and people love it a lot, is the SHUVA principle. And I'm super excited. I'm going to be able to do a TED Talk on that in September. So that's going to be coming out. People are going to be hopefully hitting the TED waves and TEDx, I should say. It's TEDx. I'm doing a TEDx talk about it, not a TED Talk. But I hope that people in this audience will check that out, Patty Beach, and look up SHUVA, SHUVA. So what's SHUVA? SHUVA is a pathway to alignment. Without SHUVA, you cannot reach alignment. SHUVA describes the kind of quality connection we need in order to align. And what it stands for is 5 universal needs that everybody has. And it doesn't matter your gender, your age, your profession, your culture, your language, your neurodiversity. Everybody has these same 5 needs. They're the need to be seen, heard, understood, valued, and appreciated. Seen, heard, understood, valued, and appreciated. And if you think about it for a minute, you're probably thinking, yeah, it feels pretty great when I'm seen, heard, understood, valued, and appreciated. Well, how does it feel when it's not? Well, pretty crummy. You don't get me. I'm invisible, all of that stuff, right? We're not getting anywhere. Oh, we're hitting our head against the wall, that kind of thing. That's when you're in the SHUVA-less environment, right? So what's kind of cool about the SHUVA acronym is it also stands for 5 things anyone can do to meet those 5 universal needs. I can see you, hear you, understand you, value, and appreciate you. And I can really even go through that very readily, like see, are we looking at each other? Do I know the color of your eyes? Am I noticing if you're catching what I'm saying? Hear, am I giving you time to talk? Understand, am I really getting what you're saying? Do you seem to feel like I got you? Value, did I actually treasure what you brought to me and knew that your thinking mattered to me? And appreciate, did I fully appreciate you for bringing your energy here today? So when I SHUVA you and you feel SHUVA'd, now we can do anything. Now we get each other, especially if it's reciprocated. I SHUVA you, you feel SHUVA'd, you SHUVA me, I feel SHUVA'd. Yeah, anything's possible. Don't have that, we're stuck, So we can back it up and go, okay, wait, see, did I have enough meetings with you here? Am I letting you talk enough? Am I writing down what you say? It's actually a really great formula. And half the time when anybody has a problem in a relationship, we just bring out the little SHUVA acronym. We say, okay, let's check this. Is this happening between you and person X? Oh, nope, not that one. Okay, let's go back. See, yeah, actually, like maybe you should go talk to them in person, that kind of thing, right? Or you should turn on your cameras. I mean, how many times have you been to Zoom calls where people don't turn on their cameras? I don't know about you, but it's like, oh my gosh, it's like looking into a black hole, Anyway, so that's one of the formulas that, is part of my book. And I believe that formula can change the world.
Mhm.
Like, folks with, well, one of the things I love, Karen, is you wrote this book called Little Rain Man. I don't know if folks know about that, but if you guys don't know anything about Little Rain Man, Karen wrote this amazing book for, it was about your son, I think,
Mhm.
as a child, as a little children's book. And this book is awesome for kids to read, to understand other kids with autism in the class, or for teachers to understand kids with autism. And that book allowed a lot of kids to get SHUVA that weren't getting it before. People didn't understand what happened for them when they would, wander off into their minds, and the things that showed up in that book that was so beautifully illustrated and told. And, that's what we need to do for each other. We need to SHUVA one another. And if I bring in a person to work for me that has autism, if I SHUVA them, I'll figure out a way to work with them.
Mhm.
They'll show up. I don't SHUVA them, then, it won't be any different than anybody else. I
Mhm.
won't be able to connect enough to get the work done we need to do.
That's wonderful. I use Shiva all the time. It's like part of my DNA. And I put it, I just kind of copied it and put it in my work. I love it. I think it's so powerful. How do you bring leaders into success in, like, I know we talked about the program that we're, to help people with autism recognize relationships
Mm.
and understand like where the relationship is, like with the colors, like we talked about the colors of red, green, and blue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
I use the language of alignment that I wrote about in my book.
Mhm.
And I help leaders think about alignment on 3 levels. So one level of alignment is team. We bring everybody in a room, we come to an agreement together, and we decide what we're going to do together. And another level of alignment is interpersonal, one-to-one. What sometimes you can be in a team and it's easy to align with everybody except for that one person. And then you're like, oh my gosh, you know, right? So that's another level of alignment. And then the other level of alignment is, personal alignment. I always say there's Patty and her evil twin. Half the time we don't align, right? Like I think I want to do this, but maybe I want to do that. And I'm like, anytime I'm misaligned with my own thinking, it's hard for me to get anywhere. It's hard for me to get where I need to go.
Mhm.
So when I'm coaching with leaders and organizations, we work on all of those levels of alignment.
Mhm.
Um, and when I'm working with teams, so I think go back to the interpersonal one, because that was what you're bringing up with the colors.
Mhm.
So when I just was doing this the other day with a banking vice president, and he had decided that one of the things that he wanted to get better at was relationships at a higher level.
Mhm.
Basically like not only his boss, but his boss's boss, like the CEO and stuff like that. And we talked about SHUVA, like, how often did he see these people, and how was he in relationship with them? But what we also did was I put his name in the center of a page, and then we mapped out who the people were. And he had the name of like the CEO and his boss and his peer and this other person, on the CFO and the chairman of the board, et cetera. And then what I had him do was to visualize that between him and each person, there was like a pipe that connected them that represented their relationship. And then I asked him to color that pipe either red, green, or blue. And so a green pipe meant that they had a great relationship. It was easy to talk to this person and easy to connect with a person. A blue relationship meant they didn't have much of a connection. And a red relationship meant that they had some sort of friction or conflict in the relationship. And what I have found is that it really helps people to visualize a color of the pipe. And this can help them go from their head thinking about, oh, the relationship, let me think. Wait, no, feel that relationship. What we see with a lot of times people on the spectrum, they don't have a lot of access to their feeling or their body intelligence, right? They may be, really thinking of things kind of up in their head. And how do we help them sink into their bodies? And so this Pipeworks map, we call it, is a really helpful tool for leaders. We get it out and say, hey, what color are you now with these folks, right? And they would say, oh, I've got red turned to pink, meaning it's better. It's a little bit less hot friction. What did you do? Kind of get them thinking about that. We might apply the SHUVA principle to look at how they might make it go green by just being more in contact with that person and connecting with them in a different way. And I really think that actually it was you who said, the Pipeworks could be really helpful for the neurodiverse community, maybe parents working with kids, right? That that they're trying to help them think about relationships in a more heartfelt, right?
I told my son, Jonathan, about, this whole thing, and he started thinking it was really good because people on the spectrum are oftentimes very visual, as Temple Grandin talks about, right? And well, yeah, sometimes my relationship with my brother is red, and he could immediately relate to the colors. He just immediately. And I think a lot of people, may not even realize that they don't have a relationship, or maybe not even think about it until you see the colors. So I think that could be quite powerful, and it could be a really good tool.
Yeah. And it makes it more tangible, like the one-to-one connection. To imagine that red pipe, oh, something's connecting us, right? Energetic connection, right? Which can be hard to visualize, right? It's more tangible that you can see it. And like you said, visible.
Even not knowing that you don't have any pipes at all, it's like, why don't I have any pipes? Or maybe I want more pipes or something like that,
Yeah. I know that just writing down, because sometimes we think globally about relationships, like my relationships are good and my relationships are bad. Well, wait, with who? And what is the quality of that relationship? If that's somebody important to you, what are you doing to make it green? Right. Because when I was talking to this bank, I was talking about his CEO, and he said, well, it's kind of blue. And I said, well, why is it blue? And he says, well, he actually walks by my house every day on a walk, and I never even asked him if I'd go on a walk with him. And I was like, well, okay, that's what he does. But what are you doing, that's making it blue, right? So it gets us into like the real relationship, right, of that, and so we're developing software so that people can go in and add their names and click on them and change them and diagnose it. And I even do that with the teams I work with now. They diagnose every single relationship on the team, and we look at, okay, when we work with each other this way, do we get more green pipes, or does it go red? And so it's a nice little diagnostic to help you see this is working or it's not working.
Yeah.
Because for everybody, relationships is the real treasure of life. You don't have relationships, you can't make much happen.
You might as well live on a desert island.
Yeah. It's through, because as smart as I am, I'm not nearly as smart as you and I are. So it's through relationships that I expand my intelligence, right? That more and more becomes possible.
So that's true. That's very true. I can't wait to see that come out. I think that's going to be very powerful. So you have courses that you offer, you have books that you're coming out with, and you have lots of juicy stuff that's coming out. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So first of all, my book's available on Amazon. It's also now on Audible, which is exciting. I have this wonderful actress, a beautiful, rich voice narrating the book. It's just fantastic to listen to her. And a lot of people have said they like the book because it feels like they're sitting next to me and I'm being coached by me. So I highly recommend that as a starting point. But you can also go to leadershipsmarts.com, where you can see where we have courses. A lot of our courses are just brought into organizations directly, but we have public courses on the regular, pretty much once a month or so we offer courses. And we're going to have the TEDx talk coming out in October. We're hoping that a lot of people will watch that and bring that into their classrooms, bring it into their conversations with one another, maybe in their families. And we're going to have a SHUVA course, so people can sign up for SHUVA. Basically, that's going to be a 6-week course where people can think about SHUVA, and we would spend 1 week just working on see. How do you deeply see people? And then another week working on hear. And then another week understand, another week value, another week appreciate. And then we'll wrap it all together and say, okay, now that you've become a SHUVA master, the queen of SHUVA, the king of SHUVA, right? What has that done to you? And I can tell you, a lot of people has told me this has changed their lives. As an example, I had a doctor who told me that he said, SHUVA has changed my life. And I said, really, what? And he said, well, I'm able to make better diagnosis for my patients. And when I SHUVA with them, they connect to what I share with them. So they're more likely to follow through on what I recommend. Yeah. And then he also told me that it helped him with his dating game, which was apparently he'd been bombing out on whatever it was, Match.com or something, but after that, he started to SHUVA the ladies, that he met in the restaurants, et cetera. And, started to score more often, I guess you could say, so that's just an example of what it can do to your personal life. But I honestly believe that SHUVA is life. It's a way of life. It's not just for leaders and teams and organizations. It's a way of, living into every relationship as an opportunity for connection. And if nothing else would happen, I would love it if folks that are working with the neurodiverse community just SHUVA the hell out of them, and they SHUVA themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because atypical people are wonderful. They make the world beautiful because each of us matter and each of us have a spark to offer. The more we SHUVA one another, the more we can tap into the beauty of this diverse, beautiful world we live in.
Those are wonderful, wonderful words, Patty. Do you have any other words of wisdom? I know you have a bazillion, but do you have any other that you want to leave with this audience with?
Yeah, I would say pick someone and SHUVA them today. And not because you want them to feel good. SHUVA them because they are good. And when you find the good in them, their world will expand and so will yours. That's my word of advice.
Those are wonderful. And people know how to get in touch with you, right?
Yeah, leadershipsmarts.com, as in multiple intelligences, LeadershipSmarts. So if you want to become a better leader, or you want to send your job to your boss to leadership training, so I can SHUVA you better, you know where to find me.
Well, you have been an amazing, amazing guest. And thank you so much for being on our summit.
All right. Well, I wish you all the best of luck.
Okay.
Yeah. Take care. Hope that goes around the world summit goes around the world.
Again and again and again.
Again and again and again. All right. Take care.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.